Next up, we are going to talk about a rather interesting topic here. So,
Okay.
Azealia Banks is a pretty outspoken person. She is someone who does not shy away from expressing her views on certain things on the internet. And recently, she has taken aim at Jay-Z and Beyonce, but more specifically, the rollout of Beyonce's country album that she is now on the record saying is not a country album, even though when it first came out, it was. But now she's rolling it back and saying it's a Beyonce album, not a country album, whatever. But Beyonce's country album, right? Azealia Banks took aim at the rollout of this thing, sort of really digging into the lack of authenticity with respect to it being a part of country music. And now, because of some pushback, she is claiming that due to comments that she made initially, Jay-Z and Beyonce are engaging in a smear campaign to silence her as a result of the fact that she is critical of Beyonce's country album. And she ain't backing down. So she's digging herself in her. She is not going to allow you to smoke her out of her hole. She has dug in on this, and we figured we'd go ahead and talk about it here. So this says Azealia Banks accuses Beyonce and Jay-Z of pathetic smear campaign after country era criticism. Last month, Azealia Banks took to social media to share her unfiltered take on Beyonce's new country era. As expected, she earned herself plenty of backlash from the Beehive in the process. According to her, the hitmaker missed the mark with Texas Hold'em and 16 carriages in what she calls a lazy attempt at diving into a new genre. She urged Beyonce to stop the madness and instead just leave it up to pros like K. Michelle. A few weeks after Banks unleashed her criticism, Billboard published a story about her various high-profile feuds. Now, she's suspicious that Beyonce was behind it in some way. She hopped on Instagram to respond, slamming the songstress and her husband for what she suggests is a smear campaign. It's becoming increasingly obvious you let your staff take payments to spew any BS in these weak attempts to control narratives, she said. But the fact that my message regarding Beyonce and Rock Nation's treatment slash sabotaging of black female artists, writers behind the scenes, and her audacious expectation that black women somehow join her in a moment of pride for being the first black woman to top the country charts. Ugh, I almost vomited, was enough for their team to pay for this weak attempt at damage control is very tickling. I think it's pathetic that in the year 2024, a global superstar and her husband's overwhelmingly desperate attempts to snag an album of the year, obviously to pump some steam into the curious attempt to disrupt the power structure of the music industry with their own DSP title, needs to hinge on these offensively infantilizing epithets like first black woman to spin payola at country radio, lol, as if she deserves something special simply for being black. She also added, this post BLM propaganda isn't masking how both songs pale in comparison to literally every single artist making contemporary white Americana country music. What do you think of Azealia Banks accusing Beyonce and her team of targeting her with negative PR? Blah, 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 blah. So basically, what she's saying is Billboard put out a story detailing the various feuds that that Azealia Banks has been involved in over the years, and Banks feels as though this was a coordinated effort on behalf of Jay-Z and Beyonce to make her look bad as a result of the critical comments that Azealia Banks had towards Beyonce's leading singles for what was Beyonce's country album that Beyonce officially, in terms of the public arena, is now saying, wait, hold on, time out, guys, let's back up. This album isn't exactly country, it's Beyonce. Let's be clear about that, which I think is a bit of collateral damage control on their part. But Azealia Banks is alleging that this is a smear campaign being paid for by Beyonce and Jay-Z to, I guess, put her in her place because she dared to have something critical to say about Beyonce's country music. Now, there are links in this article that you can click on that will allow you to read to read Azealia Banks' original critiques of Beyonce's country music songs. It was too long. She went on. It's several pages long worth of tweets and Instagram posts. So I'm not gonna read all of that. Y'all can check that out for yourself. But she went in on it, criticizing it for Beyonce basically, you know, trying to dip her toe in the country music sand and playing off of her namesake and the fact that she's a black woman to try and garner a significant amount of the country music fan base to pay attention to her music. And Azealia Banks wasn't here for it, apparently. So these are interesting comments from Azealia Banks. We touched on Beyonce and her country music endeavor previously when it was purported that a country music radio station refused to play the song. But then once they realized that it was actually a country song, they went ahead and played it. And they were like, we didn't realize that it was a country song. We thought that you were requesting regular Beyonce music. And there was this whole media story going out there that a country music radio station on purpose was refusing to play Beyonce's country music. Of course has since been cleaned up because that was of course not the case. But what do you make of this entire situation, man?
Boy.
You think Azealia Banks has a point here? Do you think the Carters are trying to silence her? You think the criticism was not warranted? How do you feel about this?
All right, so let me start from the top here. I agree with Mrs. Banks' take on Beyonce's music, her country music. I believe it was trash. All right. Hey, sorry, Beehive. Now hear me out. It just wasn't good. And while listening to it, I agree with her that it was lazy. I don't know what it was supposed to be. So yeah, and I felt like it was insulting. And I felt like if it was like anybody that came over from another genre and they started rapping, like Ben Shapiro. Like Ben Shapiro had a song where he was rapping about some stuff, talking about this is a yarmulke, no cap. And I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, but it's Ben Shapiro's novelty. Like, who's really going to take this seriously? So it's the same type of, do you really listen to this music enough to put enough umph into it? I don't think you did. So yeah, I didn't like it. Very commercial, even though country's commercial. That was commercial country. Yeah, it was crazy. So I agree with that take, and she's entitled to that, especially being a person well known for Twitter rants. But so here's the part where I'm 50-50 on it. Now, smear campaign, yeah, why not? I'll take that. But the culprits behind it, I really can't say if it was actually, per se them, like, yeah, let's go get her. I think it was probably more or less. I'm sure it's a thing. It's just protocol for damage control. If anybody takes aim at whatever they're doing, and so part of that damage control, part of how that defense mechanism work is you do have media arms. Not to bring up LeBron again, but the LeBron, like, he's known now for having his footprint in the media. So if he wants an agenda push, only thing he got to do is, tell his boy, then Clutch Sports, gets Big Perk to say something crazy. So to me, this is no different in the sense that, hey, we got an album rolling out. This is already on the fringe. We're already expecting mixed reviews. We don't need anybody coming after this. All right. So here comes Miss Banks unmuting. Okay. Well, this is an easy one. Score. This is an easy one. Hey, write up how she always gets into internet beefs with people. Try to discredit her that way. So that, I feel like that's how it went. So to specifically aim at Miss Banks, I don't think anybody really cares. And this is no slight to her. I don't think anybody cares about what she does besides her and her fans. Kind of like on some Doja Cat stuff. It's literally the same type of energy, really. Like, if we all went to school with Azealia Banks would be in a clique with her own people, being the weird leader and being abrasive to everybody. And that's pretty much her thing. So if Billboard wrote that she's an abrasive person, that's not really smearing. That's pretty
Yeah,
much what she does.
right.
So that's the part about it was like, I don't know how much I can go for this, but I would say that yes, whether it's an artist or a record label or whatever corporate interest, if you are trying to defame them, they'll come back and try to defame you. Um, Last thing I'll say is that I heard a saying. Somebody says that um what it said. I forgot what it was, but it was something more or less the lines like around towards like corruption. Like, you can't basically you can't try to end corruption because those are corrupt people and they're basically more corrupt than you. And so if there's a situation where you feels like, oh, I'm hollering at these people because they're this, they're that, they're trying to control the industry, they're trying to control narratives. You're right. And watch us take what you just said and spin a narrative against your ass.
Yeah.
So so she's gonna get painted out to be a weird person for this. I do think that there's a degree of truth to it, but I think this is just more of her being in her own world and only seeing it through one perspective. What are your thoughts, sir? How do you feel about all of this? Jay-Z, Beyonce, country music, Azealia Banks. What's going on?
I don't think there's an active effort to smear or silence her. I don't. I don't think Jay-Z, Team Rock Nation, whoever, Beyonce, whomever, I don't think that they're like, ooh, she was critical of our Queen's country music. Let's put a hit out her on Billboard. I don't think that that's happening. But what I will say is, because of who it was that Azealia Banks was talking about, it became worth it for media outlets to turn the microscope back and take a look at Azealia Banks, right?
Correct.
So so this is more so a byproduct of how the media operates, how the media behaves, because due to the fact that Azealia Banks was critical of Beyonce's music specifically, and Beyonce is such a huge name, then the media is going to then say, wow, this is somebody who's saying something about, you know, the Queen Mother, Beyonce herself. And Beyonce is such a huge lightning rod of a name. Being critical of those comments, you're going to create a situation in which the media is going to take a look at you because of who it is you're talking about. Azealia Banks has been outspoken and abrasive for a long time, and she goes at different people. It never causes a media storm. The difference here is who it is she's talking about this time. Because it happened to be Beyonce, now it's a story because Beyonce is who Beyonce is. That doesn't mean that it's being done intentionally to smear her. It's just being curtailed into an opportunity to create media narratives for attention. Attention that benefits Billboard, benefits Beyonce as well, but also in a roundabout way, even though she doesn't like it, it does benefit Azealia Banks because people are going to be talking about her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just more so a function of how the media operates, more so than an intended attempt to silence her because she dared be critical of Beyonce's music. So that's the whole smear thing. I want to sort of put that in a box and lock it away because I'm not buying that. But as it pertains to what she said, I like what she said because this is literally an infiltration into another sandbox. And whenever there's an infiltration into another sandbox, it's going to be met with aggressiveness. Case in point, Taylor Swift. Like, as sports fans, we like abhor Taylor Swift, not because of Taylor Swift as a person or her music. I don't know her music from a can of paint. I said before, I couldn't name 3 songs by Taylor Swift. Maybe if I was in a crowded place and somebody played the song, it would be familiar, but I wouldn't know, oh, that's Taylor Swift. Like, somebody would have to tell me that's a Taylor Swift song. I don't follow her like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the media circus surrounding Taylor Swift in the NFL because of her alleged relationship with Travis Kelsey was annoying to me because this is popular culture and TikTok world dipping its toe into the sandbox of an area that I'm going to be in regardless, which is my consumption of the NFL. So it rubbed me in a way that was aggravating because I'm going to watch these games regardless. I don't need Taylor Swift to convince me to watch the NFL. I'm going to be here. So whenever you have that infiltration into a different sandbox, the individuals who are already occupying that sandbox are going to meet that infiltration aggressively. And Beyonce is no different because she's trying to dip her toe in the country sandbox, and people are going to have some stuff to say about it because it's like, hey, you just got here. We've been doing this stuff. I think Azealia Banks' critique of the music itself was warranted. There's nothing wrong with that. If anybody has an issue with what she had to say about the music from a critical standpoint, I think you need to check your ego at the door and turn down the Beyonce fandom because those were comments that were completely just, in my opinion, in terms of the level of their critique. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, she might be going a little bit left, saying that there's an attempt to smear her, but what she initially said was correct, and her response was also correct. And here's my bigger takeaway from this. Beyonce, I roll my eyes at the idea that Beyonce is going to make country music. It's an eye roll because it's like, why do you have to infiltrate the country music scene, or as Azealia Banks likes to put it, white Americana music or white music Americana or whatever she said? Like, are you doing this because you want to appeal to a different fan base, or are you doing it because there's legitimately a part of your um, artistry that speaks to making country music? I would like to think that if there was a specific part of yourself and your soul and your artistry that spoke to making country music, you would have been done it a long time ago. It wouldn't have taken you. How long has Beyonce been around? 20 plus years?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have taken over 20 decades for you to make country music if that was truly a part of who you are as an artist. You're doing this because you're trying to appeal to a different fan base and capitalize off your namesake. That's the part about it that's the part about it that's going to make people roll their eyes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Azealia Banks calling that out. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling that out. Furthermore, if there's any good that's going to come from this situation, and I mentioned this before when we touched on this whole thing with Beyonce making country music, here's my thing. Everybody out there in the community, right? If Beyonce going into country music makes you realize that you have the capacity to embrace country music as a form of music that you could enjoy as a consumer of music, then I would implore you to also listen to other black country music artists because they've been around for years and years. And like Azealia Banks said in her initial comments, they do it way better than her, and it actually speaks to their soul as an artist. It's not some cockamamie attempt to appeal to a different fan base, to try and amass more trophies and pick up more awards nominations or whatever it is that they're trying to do by having her be a country music artist. So if it's really like that, and you realize, oh, Beyonce is getting in the country, let me pay more attention to country music. If it's really like that, then go ahead and give some love, show some support, pay some attention to the litany of country music artists who've been in that space for years and years, been making that music, and they actually do it because it's a part of who they are. So let's give them some love if you're realizing that Beyonce's foray into country music allows you to discover, oh, I have the capacity to consume this music too. So that's my biggest takeaway from this. Hey, man, let's pay some attention to people like Kane Brown. I mentioned this guy last time we talked about this, Jimmy Allen. Let's listen to some people like him. Allison Russell. I mentioned Darius Rucker. He's an old head, but he's been making country music for years. The guy who's a drummer for Hootie and the Blowfish, been doing this. Amethyst, Kaya, Brittany Spencer. One of the ones that I started hearing about recently because they kind of been blowing up on the scene lately is Mickey Guyton. So, like, let's pay attention to people like this. because they're actually country music artists, not R&B singers who are trying to appeal to a wider fan base. So that's my whole thing. If it's really about the music and listening to the music, and if you really want to prove Azealia Banks wrong because you love Beyonce so much, then prove her wrong and actually listen to country music, not just do it on a whim because Beyonce decided to make this abomination of a country music album, but you're going to listen to it anyway because you're one of these zombie Beyonce fans.
Hey, what, just 2 topics ago, we were just embracing
Non-conformity.
Venturing off to a new path, starting something new, starting fresh, reinventing yourself. I'm sorry. But the difference between that, and I'll speak for myself, praising what Andre did and me criticizing what Beyonce's doing, is that what Beyonce, the Andre stuff is authentic. It comes off very authentic. And even when JV said, hey, I felt as though it's not all the way 100. I felt like a little 50-50, him not knowing what he was going to do with it, but still, there was still a level of, but whatever he decided to do was authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So the praising of somebody being their authentic self, stepping into their path, wherever it may take them, is worth celebration. I think more people should do that. The difference between what Andre's doing and what she's doing is that, as Azealia mentioned, and as I agreed in my first comments, is that it doesn't sound as though you even listen to this art form for real. This sounds, I don't even know what to make of this. So much so that you can play it off as it's not really country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so ambiguous. I don't know what she was trying to do.
Yeah, I think I legitimately think that she's only dialing that back because she sees people aren't buying it. Mm-hmm. But if people were buying that it was legitimately country, she'd be leaning into it. So she's just trying to straddle the fence.
Yeah, she's trying to make her own reggaeton. Trying to have an R&B country splice. Look, Beyonce, look, I'm not buying this, man. I wasn't buying it then. When I heard it, when I first heard that she was doing country, I was like, oh no, please don't do this to your career. Look, I wasn't already buying you, but there's people out there that was buying what you was doing. And you're going to mess that up by coming out here and doing this. So to me, this is no different than, she's going to have to come back with another R&B album like ASAP, a double album, to try to sweep this under the rug. No different than Lil Wayne when he picked up his guitar for that one album. He had to sweep that under the rug with more mixtapes just so people can forget that he tried to be a rock star for an album. It wasn't good. So I'm not saying that people can't venture out and people can't be themselves and do what feels good to them, but this really felt, as you said too, it felt as though this was more of a, I'm trying to get crossover appeal. I'm trying to make more money versus me actually speaking through a part of myself. I heard one country song just scrolling through TikTok, and some, white dude, younger guy, kind of like he's rapping, but he's singing. But the stuff he was saying about his relationship, the heartache that he was going through, was well woven. It was well said. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. I could see why people really into this like that, But the thing that what Beyonce's doing ain't no, this ain't Texas. This ain't no Hold'em. Spin round. Well, you want people to mosey to this? You want people to square dance to this? Oh, that's what you try to make a square dance hit. Girl, stop. So I felt as though it was embarrassing. I felt as though it was embarrassing. And for anybody to criticize it, that's what I'm saying. I feel like Azealia is not the only one. I feel as though because we're not hearing it so much is an indictment on Beyonce. Beyonce will have the streets on fire by now. You know what I'm saying? Because when Lemonade dropped, Lemonade was coming up every day.
Yeah.
It was coming up every day in roundabout circles. We scroll looking for topics on here. We would have seen, Beyonce stuff. No, man, this is not hitting. And this is coming from a Titan and icon herself. So that shows you how underwhelming these songs were. So this isn't, oh, y'all hate. No, this is this. You look at the metrics. It proves how underwhelming this song was. That ain't from hate. This is from it not being good. So yeah, man. So I think the what it really boils down to is that yeah, they're gonna have to try again with something else and just be more authentic, man, and stop being fake. I think that's also the takeaway here is that you see what happened when you try to fake the funk. Just be you and do whatever it is that you do, because as you can see, even if you swing for the fences like this, you can still fall flat on your face. So if you end up doing what you always wanted to do and it didn't end up how you wanted it to, you can always go to sleep at night and say, I ain't sell myself out for it though. And I did what I wanted to do because it made me happy at that time. And one thing Beyonce gonna do is she gonna go to her whenever something come up. I don't know how that's gonna come up when it come to her show. She ain't even gonna do that. She gonna be Owen instead of singing some Texas Hold'em. She gonna be singing all her old classics. So yeah, man. Shouts out to Miss Banks, man. I'm never really that much agreeing with her. I always see where she's coming from, but I never really agree with her. But on this one, I guess I'm the same with that. So that's kind of 50-50. But I agree that stuff whack though. I do agree with
Yeah, I think her criticisms were fair,
that. Valid.
definitely very fair. They were very valid, and I also think that her follow up was also even more valid in terms of if it's really about country music and shedding a light on that, don't fall for this posturing act on behalf of Beyonce trying to position herself as this courageous, heroic black person who's trying to get into country music and change the game, because we have a healthy stable of black country music artists who are doing country music and they've been doing it, and it actually is who they are as an artist. It speaks directly to their soul and their artistry. So let's start listening to some of them, okay? Instead of feeling like your only foray into country music is through consuming whatever it is that Beyonce's doing. And I said this before, like like non-conformity, part of that is our consumption of music and content. And country is a part of that. There's been black people doing country music. As we said before, if you can trace the origins of this, just look up a Wikipedia history of country music. Its origins have black people riddled all through it. So it isn't that historically black artists have never been involved. We've always been involved. We were just sold on the idea that it isn't our genre of music because we were urbanized. So don't let this act fool you of Beyonce trying to say, oh, the first black woman to do this or a black woman to no. All of these black women in country music, listen to them. If it's like that, then listen to them. Branch out. Be about it. Don't just talk about it. You ain't gotta it doesn't have to be a Beyonce album for you to listen to country music. Nobody's stopping you. If it's like that, listen to some of these country music artists making this country music, these black artists, men and women, and she was right on the money with that. She was absolutely right on the money with that. And again, very last point that I'll say, if this was truly what Beyonce was about, it wouldn't have taken her 20 plus years. She would have been experimenting with country music a long time ago. How long did it take Lil Wayne to experiment with Rebirth? That was what, 15 years ago? How long ago was that? That was like 15 years ago. That was forever ago when he did that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. Y'all know I'm guessing.
That was around 2009, 2010-ish.
Yeah, it was a minute ago, right? So it's not going to take you 20, 25 years to decide, oh, let me experiment now, especially when you're someone as big as her and you're Teflon. Like, nothing can damage her. So it isn't like you do it and it fails. It's going to come back to bite you in the ass. You're Beyonce. You can just keep it pushing. So she could have been done this if it was really about making different kind of music the way she wanted to. It's just, at the end of the day, she's free to do whatever she wants. Just don't sell me on this idea that she's, founding new frontier. There's all kinds of black artists in here making country music, and y'all been ignoring them from the jump. So how about you stop ignoring them and y'all start listening to them too?
Facts, man. Hey, Beyonce, catch you at the hoedown. Hey, like and subscribe, man. Screw, screw. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? We're trying to reach 1K around here, man. Make
yeah.
sure
You too,
leave a comment,
Beyonce. You too, Beyonce. Subscribe to the damn channel.
because I know you watching.
Yeah. With all due respect.